Okay, students, welcome. Come on in, grab a seat. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for being here tonight. We love Wednesday nights. We love seeing you. We love hearing from these great guests. Tonight we have Landon Bytheway with us. He's a filmmaker. He's an entrepreneur. He's an educator. And he's the owner of the company Full-Time Filmmaker and a few other really cool ventures. And Meg, our intern from our office, will introduce him in just a minute. But as we do each week, I have 3 books by Amy Anderson, What Awesome Looks Like. And we're going to give these to the 3 people that volunteer to come up and tell us one important thing you learned from Gene Spalding last week, all right? And Sydney Scally right there is going to pick the 3 of you. So if you want to come up, raise your hand, and she will pick 3 students to come up here. So come on up on the stage, tell us your name, one thing that you learned that you think you can apply in your career, and then you get a book, okay?
My name's John Wolf. One thing I really loved that he said was this comparison between a job and a career. That as we are graduating college, we can use a job as a stepping stone, but if it's not something that we really see our future in, don't get stuck in that, but let it be a stepping stone to your career.
I like that he gave a few tips of how college can help you, and he talked about making sure that your professors know you. And I've used that this week, and it's actually really helped me make sure that my grades have been staying up and how I've been doing good in classes.
I loved how he talked about how when you have a supportive spouse and a strong family, that keeps you grounded and helps you not rise above anything too crazy. It keeps you grounded and reminds you of your purpose.
Okay, let's give him a hand. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay, Meg, come on up. Introduce Landon.
Thank you. All right, so after attending USU about 7 years ago, Landon decided to dedicate his career to more entrepreneurial endeavors. He is a filmmaker, now turned more entrepreneur and business owner, but he started by building his brand through content creation. About 2 years ago, he took ownership of Full-Time Filmmaker, which if you're in the freelance industry or the film industry, you know Full-Time Filmmaker, you know Landon. I had the opportunity to work with him about 2 years ago, and his passion was truly inspiring for his business. So please give up a big hand for Landon Bytheway.
Oh, yeah. I have. Yeah. Is lav mics on? We're good? Okay, looking for a thumbs up. Thank you. Yeah, wow. So actually, funny story. I didn't know Meg was a part of the entrepreneur program here. So first off, and if no one knows what FTF is, what Full-Time Filmmaker is, it's okay. But raise your hand if you're familiar with Full-Time Filmmaker. Okay, I'll take it. So part of Full-Time Filmmaker, something we do is we have a series that's called Beginner versus Pro on YouTube. And it's when a professional filmmaker like myself goes up against a beginner filmmaker like Meg, and I have a really crappy, or not a very professional piece of equipment, and the beginner has a really, really nice piece of equipment. And so Meg and I met because we needed a beginner for a YouTube video we were making. DJI was coming out with a brand new mobile pocket gimbal camera thing. It's called the Osmo Pocket 3. And so we did this launch video with that camera. So I'm the pro filming on that camera. Megan has this $10,000 or $15,000 camera setup. She has her own personal production assistant. And we're filming this $3.5 million Bugatti in a shipping yard. And this is the first time Megan and I meet. And we go to film this video, and I'm like, Meg, do you have a shot list or anything? You put a shot list together for this video, because it's a car video. And she's like, yeah, I got this. And she pulls up the Cars movie, the beginning of the Cars movie, where he's like, speed. And that was her shot list. I was like, all right, let's see how this goes. And my shot list is an actual shot list going through everything. And so she killed it, did a very good job. I was very impressed. Spoiler alert, the pro always wins in these videos, but you did a great job anyway. And so yeah, that's funny, small world. And then she randomly hit me up to come here, so thank you. Sorry, there's a little interference. Should I back up? Are we good?
Just turn the sound down.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So yeah, when you say 7 years ago, I went to USU 7 years ago. It does not seem like it was that long ago. Leland, my brother, is actually here too. We went here at the same time. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I did not graduate USU, okay? I am a dropout. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm not trying to tell you to quit this class or anything. I'm just telling you so that's out of the way. I think technically my major was anthropology because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Any anthropology majors in here? Nope. Yep, figured. So I did that. And, first off, I think you guys are probably used to hearing people's stories when they come up here. They tell their story, how they started, where they are right now. And I'm 100% going to do that. But I feel like when I listen to entrepreneurs' stories, like you guys ever listened to NPR, How I Built This, the podcast with Guy Raz? Raise your hand if you've heard of that podcast. Love that podcast. It's great. So you get to hear from the founders of like Instagram and Peloton and Lululemon, and they tell their entire story. Guy Raz comes in and he has like this little narration and kind of gives some more context. But whenever I listen to those episodes, there's like something missing. I'm like, I want some more like tactical stuff that I can apply to what I'm doing. So today I want to give you my story, but I also want to make sure you guys are leaving with some stuff that you can apply to the businesses that you are currently building, that you plan to build in the future. So yeah, we'll move from there. And then if we have time at the end, we'll do a Q&A as well. So this is the story of how I went from $300 in my bank account in 2017. This is on the lawn at our house at Utah State. We lived at a place called the Pink Door House. I don't know if it still has a pink door, but I visited it like a year ago and it was pink at the time. So going from $300 in college to a family of 4, and I did $1.6 million last year as a creative entrepreneur. When I was in college, I was on FAFSA. Anyone on FAFSA? It's okay if you are. I was on FAFSA. Love FAFSA. It got me through it, right? FAFSA paid for all my housing. It paid for my food. And so it's crazy to be back here and think, holy, that was only like 7 years ago. I had no idea what I was doing. And if you told me I was going to be on this stage today, I wouldn't have believed you. So the brochure, by the way, for this whole thing, it didn't say anything about full-time filmmaker. It just talked about Landon BTW, which is totally fine. That's a part of my story, so we'll kind of go into Landon BTW. But my main business right now is full-time filmmaker. That's not me. I'm not as handsome as that guy, but full-time filmmaker is my company now. And full-time filmmaker is an online educational platform. And so we teach beginner videographers, aspiring videographers, how to make really great, compelling content. So it's a full course. We have about 800 plus videos in our curriculum, and we have an online community. So there's about 25,000 people on the Facebook group. So you can hop in, you can get feedback on your work, you can connect with other people, you can get hired for jobs. And we have about 40,000 students worldwide in our main course, and then about 100,000 total students between our mini courses and other products that we sell too. And so that has been my main gig. But how did we get here? That's me with the duck face. I was actually an ambassador at Utah State back in 2017 and 2018. You guys are doing this. You guys ambassadors? Let's go. Sweet. I was an ambassador. I was a student body officer in my high school, and I think that kind of put me in a position to be qualified for the ambassador role here at Utah State. I only got to do it for a year, but I loved being an ambassador. It was super fun. Like I said, I lived at the Pink Door House, and that's the pink. You can kind of see the pink door behind us. College was interesting. It was kind of a roller coaster for me. Overall, I would say I liked it, but I learned something really important about myself in my first and only year of college, and that was that I'm a pretty lazy person unless I'm really, really interested in something. And so I was taking all of these classes and just trying to figure out, is there anything that I really actually want to do? And I couldn't quite find it for myself. But what I did have was a makeshift production company that I started with my brother, who's here too, and a couple of other friends. And so it was called VidUp. Leland's laughing because it was just a train wreck of a company. But I would call that my business school. I feel like I learned a ton running VidOp. And so we primarily made videos for, well, I can't even say one category. It was just kind of whatever work came to us. But I teamed up with my other buddy, who's also a videographer, and my brother, who was, what was your role again? Marketing. He was our marketing guy. Didn't know what he was doing. No one knew what they were doing. And then my other friend, who was our accountant. You don't need an accountant when you don't have any money coming in. So kind of, I don't know why. I think in my mind there was just like, there was this model to run a business, and I feel like I needed these little pieces before we could even get started. So there's 4 of us with very little revenue coming in, splitting it 4 ways evenly. Was not a very profitable business. But again, I kind of call it my business school in some ways because I learned a lot during that year. So this was my desk, just to provide some context. This was my desk in the Pink Door house in the basement, freezing cold basement, but that's where I worked, did most of my edits. This is me back in 2018 with my VidOp shirts on, filming some real estate stuff. And right, we weren't making much money. We didn't really know what we were doing, but it's kind of one of those things that you have to do in the early days, right? You're figuring it out. If you want to see my tax return, that's about how much I made that year. Pretty good, right? Not bad. About, I don't know if that was a cough or a laugh, but thank you. A little bit less than $4,000, I'll take it. So I did a full year at Utah State. Like I said, I learned that I'm very lazy unless I'm super interested in something. And I was super interested in VidOp. I was super interested in growing a production company, in getting new clients, in making videos for people. Like that was really, really fun to me. Once that school year ended, we lived in Sandy. I went back home to Sandy, and I kind of had a little bit of a decision to make. It was either I stay in Sandy and start running the production company. Oh, sorry, I skipped a step. At the end of the school year, it was going so poorly, the business, that we dissolved the entire thing. I'm like, hey, I love you guys. This just is not working. We're not going to be able to do this. Dissolved the entire company, and suddenly I was just a freelance videographer. So it was kind of like a clean slate in some ways, right? So we finished the school year. I get back to Sandy, and I have a decision to make. Do I want to pursue this, freelance video production business, or do I want to go back to school? And with the ambassador program, it's a full tuition scholarship, which was a huge blessing for me at the time because I didn't know how I was going to pay for school. And so it was actually very difficult. And my mom was very upset that I was even questioning, should I go back or should I stay here? And then I met this girl right here who actually lived 2 minutes away from my parents' house. Her and I had never met. We did go to the same high school. I kind of recognized her. And I met her, and love prevailed. I stayed home. That was the nail in the coffin. I'm like, no, she's way too hot. I can't go back up to Utah State. So I stayed. I stayed in Sandy. And if you're wondering, we're still together. We have 2 beautiful kids. Oh, I hear the awes. Thanks, guys. We have 2 beautiful kids. And I think that is probably single-handedly the best decision I have ever made in my entire life. And it doesn't mean that once this semester is over, you need to go home and find a girl and then you'll be good. That's just what worked for me, right? But by doing this, it really pushed me to jump into entrepreneurship with both feet. Suddenly I had the stability of having FAFSA, having that full tuition scholarship, being at Utah State, to, okay, now I'm back home. Yes, I live in my parents' basement for now, which is totally fine, right? But I need to figure out what I'm actually going to do. If I'm gonna do video, I really need to jump in with both feet. And so staying back, meeting this girl, within a few months, we actually got engaged. That was the kick in the butt. I needed to figure it out. So I started my solo videography business, Landon Bytheway Films. And I think for most videographers, traditionally it's like the goal that you set for yourself as a freelance videographer is, I want to get to that $100,000 a year mark. Like 100K, I'm feeling really, really good. I committed. I stayed, I dropped a full tuition scholarship and I stayed home to be with the love of my life. And I'm like, hey, this has to work. In my first year as a freelance videographer, I hit $100,000. But it was probably the hardest, I wouldn't say most stressful, but there were a lot of stressors, I think, that year. And most fulfilling year of my entire life. I did, as you can see by this reel, I did wedding videos, I did DJ videos, I did real estate videos, commercials, like literally anything. Any work that came my way, I was taking it on because I wanted to hit that 100K mark. And I kind of decided in the moment, like, I knew I wasn't going to be a jack of all trades videographer. I wasn't going to do everything all at once for the rest of my life. But I knew that if I tried a bunch of different things, eventually I would find a niche, a type of content that I created that just stuck, that I loved, that I could actually capitalize and do more of. Now, that never happened because I ran into this guy, Parker Walbeck. I was just on the phone with him earlier today. I told him we were going to be here. Parker was actually on this stage, I think, how long ago was that? 7 years ago?
5 or 6 years ago.
5 or 6 years ago? Kind of funny how that happens, right? Parker was on this stage talking about full-time filmmaker. 5, 6 years later, I'm on this stage talking about full-time filmmaker. So I thought you'd be sick of full-time filmmaker by now, but we're back. I met Parker, I reconnected with Parker. So I had met Parker when I was in high school. He was starting this brand new thing. He was actually a YouTuber making content with a YouTuber named Devin Supertramp. Anyone heard of Devin Supertramp? There we go. He was really big. I mean, he's still really big. He was especially big back in like 2015, 2016. And Parker was his right-hand man. So they were traveling all over the world making incredible content. And Parker was getting all these DMs, people asking him, hey, how do you film this? How do you light this? Like, how are you making your videos, essentially? And from all these questions that he got, he put together an entire curriculum that taught everyone everything that he knows. And he launched this program called Full-Time Filmmaker. So he and I reconnected, and we started doing some work together. He had some stuff with DJI, some sponsorships coming up. I helped him edit some of that stuff. At the time, this was like 2017-ish, there was a really big creator named Sam Kolder. You guys know who Sam Kolder is? I see a lot of nods. You guys are like, yeah, Sam Kolder. He's a cool guy. So Sam Kolder, a very prominent creator, and he was known, especially in 2017, for doing these like seamless transitions in his videos. And I texted Parker and I said, hey, you guys should do a course that teaches people how to make seamless transitions. And Parker flipped the question on me, and he's like, well, why don't you make it? Why don't you make it for us under the Full-Time Filmmaker brand? And I'm like, okay. And so I spent like 3 months making this course, and it was only like 20 videos long. It wasn't this crazy in-depth course. I made this entire course. We made a launch video to go with the course, and we published it on the Full-Time Filmmaker YouTube channel. And within, I think, a week, that video had 500,000 views. Within a month, it had topped 1 million, and now I think it's sitting at around 5 or 6 million views. So that video did extremely well. Ironically, it didn't sell very much of the course that I made, but it sold a lot of Full-Time Filmmaker, like the full course, because people saw that we made a new mini course. It was going to be a part of the big course, so they just bought the big course. And from there, Parker offered me a job. And so I went from $100,000 a year as a solo videographer. He matched that. And I never got to figure out what category industry I wanted to work in most, because I just got hired on as an employee over at Full-Time Filmmaker. Look at me. Oh, wait a second. You see my baby face. This is about what I looked like when I was here at USU. Facial hair is amazing, right? It's like makeup for men, I've decided. That's why I have a, well, scraggly, but it's there. So we create this course. Parker's doing it with me. We create this course. It does extremely well on the channel specifically. FTF sees a huge boost in revenue from that. And again, I'm brought on as an employee on the team. And I said that VidOp, my production company in college, was kind of my business school. I would say this was like business school 2.0, because I got to learn firsthand from somebody who was actually doing it day to day, who was running a successful business. They were doing all the marketing for it. They were creating content for it. They were optimizing the product. They had a huge community backing it, right? And I learned so much in those 2 years. Did my computer die? Where did it go? Hold on. No, we're good. It just locked me out. There we go. So, in the time that I was there, when I first joined Full-Time Filmmaker, we had about, I think, 500,000 subscribers on the channel, and maybe like 7,000 students, paying students in our course. When I left Full-Time Filmmaker 2 years later, we had 2 million subscribers and about 30,000 students worldwide. So we saw a huge, huge jump in those 2 years, and that's something I'm really proud of. So after those 2 years, again, I learned in college that I am very lazy unless I'm super, super interested in what I'm doing. And I've learned that all the money in the world, it doesn't matter if I don't actually love what I'm doing day to day. And working at Full-Time Filmmaker was great. There was a lot of great benefits to being there, but ultimately I had this itch to go and build my own thing. Like I needed to have something that was mine, right? So after 2 years, I just completely quit. Just cold turkey. My income went from whatever it was to zero overnight, right? And I had to kind of start over. I had to reinvent myself a little bit. And so the brochure that you guys saw at the very beginning of the PDF, Landon BTW is my personal brand. And as I was an employee at Full-Time Filmmaker, I was able to grow my personal brand kind of inside of that Landon BTW. So when I quit, I had a bit of a fallback, something I could actually lean onto. And Landon BTW was where I went to. I had sponsors lined up. They would pay me to create some videos. That one on the left is Monogram. So it's a console that you plug into your computer. It has different wheels and stuff for editors and whatnot. OnePlus paid me to do a video with a flip phone. They made me send it back for some reason. I'm like, I have to send this back. Sent me the phone, made a video, sent it back. The one on the right is just a quick, fun reel that I made. But like for about a year at least after leaving Full-Time Filmmaker, that was my life, was just making videos for my own personal brand. And honestly, I loved it. It was great. Now, remember before Full-Time Filmmaker, I had my freelance production company as well. So simultaneously, while I'm doing Landon BTW, I'm making videos for different sponsors on my social medias, I hit up a handful of my old clients, the clients that I wanted to keep working with back in like 2018-ish. And I let them know, I'm like, hey, I'm back. I'm making videos again. I would love to meet and see what we can do to create some marketing content for your business. And I just kind of restarted Landon Bytheway Films, and I kept that going. Now, in December of 2021, I met this guy named Connor. He was actually a former client of mine, and he and I met up. We have a lot in common. He wanted to build a podcast studio and have a podcast. He wanted to pay me to run that podcast for him. So we built a makeshift set in my basement. Eventually, we actually go in on buying this huge 7,000 square foot studio. We completely remodel it. We turn it into a full-scale production studio. And studio with two I's. I didn't throw a logo up for that, unfortunately. My production company is called Studio. Kind of confusing. SEO is a disaster, but you get the idea. We started this production company, and we were able to work with tons and tons of incredible clients. So we've done stuff with Hyundai, DJI, Sony, and you won't be able to read all those fast enough, but a lot of different brands. And we did that for about 2 years or so. Now, one day we were shooting for Hyundai. We're doing some social content down in St. George. This was just going to go on my personal account. And I'm driving down to St. George with my team. And anyone know what a reflector is in the video world? It's just this big like circle, right? Reflects light, obviously, right? We're going down to St. George, and we need a reflector really, really bad because St. George is really sunny. We need a reflector to bounce light back up onto our subject. And we totally spaced grabbing a reflector. Now again, I had left Full-Time Filmmaker about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years prior to this. And the only person I knew who lived in St. George was Parker. And I'm like, oh, Parker's down there. I hadn't talked to him in a few months. I shot him a text and I said, hey, this is really embarrassing, but do you have a reflector that we can borrow? And he's like, oh yeah, sure, come on over, I'll get you one. We go to his house, he gives us a reflector, and he's like, what are you guys shooting? I'm like, oh, we're shooting for Hyundai. He's like, oh, do you mind if I come? And I'm like, sure. If you've ever met Parker, he's the most like introverted dude. He doesn't want to hang out with anybody. So I was like, why do you want to hang out with us? But he wanted to come, so I was like, sure, come on by. And he came and he shot some stuff with us. And after we filmed, we got to talking, and he kind of explained to me that he was getting a little bit burnt out with full-time filmmaker. He had built this amazing course community for the last 7 or 8 years, and he just couldn't do it anymore. He's like, I love this, but like I am so burnt out. Like I need to figure out how I can exit this right now without losing like the trust of this huge community that we've built. As you can imagine, it's really hard to exit a company like that that's so dependent on an individual to create all the content, to be the face of the whole thing, right? And he tells me, he says, I made a list of all the people who I think could actually take over full-time filmmaker, and you're at the top of that list. I'm like, okay. I'm like, oh, that's a bit, okay. I'm like, you remember I quit, right? / kind of got fired a little bit. And he didn't seem to care, actually. I think he just kind of noticed that I had changed and matured over the last couple of years. And so I'd gone from employee to business owner, and I think that shift, he noticed that. We got to talking. One thing led to another, and I essentially became the acting CEO of Full-Time Filmmaker in like late 2023. So this was August, September of 2023. And I take over the company. Not on paper yet. I am just kind of making all the videos. I'm running the back end, the marketing, the ads. I'm updating course videos, doing different things. And he's kind of teaching me the ropes a little bit as we go along. Come December of that year, we made it official. So I actually acquired the Full-Time Filmmaker company in December of 2023. So going from employee to owner of the company, which was a pretty weird feeling, right? And it was just surreal. I think for me, Full-Time Filmmaker was a big part of my coming up as a creative. What's funny is Leland, my brother, he actually bought the course from Parker back in, like, was that 2016?
Like right when he started.
Right when he started, so like 2015, 2016-ish. And I never even bought, well, I bought a more expensive version of Full-Time. I bought the company, but I never bought the course itself, right? I never bought the course, I just stole his login and watched some of the videos, right? And I think I overpaid for the course itself. So I never even bought the course, but it was still a big part in all the free YouTube videos and stuff. So to come back and actually acquire that company was crazy. If you're wondering how that works, right? Because acquiring a company, it was, the purchase price for that was $3.5 million. What we did is we took the annual revenue of the company, which was about $1 million a year from the previous year, and we multiplied that by 3. It's like the most simple way to like roughly evaluate what a company is worth. And the way I acquired it was through something called RBF, so revenue-based financing. And it's really, really lucky that this is something Parker was willing to do, right? Revenue-based financing means that the owner of the company will basically make a deal where a certain percentage of your revenue will just go to him to pay off like the purchase price of the company, right? And that's how we coordinated it. So overnight, went from running a production company to now I have a production company and I have Full-Time Filmmaker, and I actually had a few other things going on. So when I took over Full-Time Filmmaker, again, it's a really difficult company to take over. It's a really unique situation because you can't just change hands seamlessly and expect everything to be okay. When I came in, I didn't want to be that new owner that came in and swapped out all the videos that had Parker's face on it with mine, that just replaced everything, because I felt like that would have been disrespectful to the product. It would have been disrespectful to the community. Like it would not have worked, right? But after having run a production company for the past 2 years, I knew that I had some expertise and some insight that I could bring to the course, to the curriculum, that wouldn't actually like run over anything that Parker had already created. And so one of the first things that I launched was a coaching program called Happy Creative. Happy Creative is, well, there you go. It teaches you how to be a videographer, a production company owner, a creative entrepreneur. And we focus on 4 main pillars. It's profitability, productivity, mentality, and creativity. Because there's a lot of sales coaches and gurus out there, even in the video world, that are like, hey, I'm gonna help you make 20K a month with your video business. But what happens when you hit 20K a month? Do you just hate the clients that you work with? Are you completely burnt out? How's your mindset? Do you feel productive? Do you feel creative? So I wanted to create a program that not only helped you get to a really great place financially, but was also fulfilling, because being a creative is fun, right? If you go into this world of being a freelance videographer and you just hate your job, you're in a really bad spot. You need to fix that as quickly as you possibly can. And so that was our focus, is I wanted to teach people how to get to that point. And for me, one of the first things that Parker told me when I acquired the company is, you have to make this yours. You have to make this product yours. If it doesn't feel like it's yours, you're gonna have a really hard time selling it and pitching it and pushing it, right? And so this was my attempt to do that. Now the only thing, and we'll get to this in just a second, this course, the coaching program, it was an add-on to Full-Time Filmmaker. It wasn't included in Full-Time Filmmaker. It was this high-ticket coaching program add-on, which kind of kicked off this series of events that I'll explain in just a second. Another thing that I launched last year, was Pocket Filmmaker. So Pocket Filmmaker teaches you how to make incredible videos just on your iPhone. We've just seen this huge surge of people who want to create cinematic quality things, but just with their phone. They don't want to buy a professional camera. And so we made an entire course just dedicated to that, and that course did extremely well. When we launched the Pocket Filmmaker course, I think that did about $150,000 in the first week. So we launched that, and it was like, okay, I think this thing has legs. I think people really like this. And we made it actually be included with Full-Time Filmmaker, the full course. So if you were already a member, you got Pocket Filmmaker. If you weren't a member, you could buy Full-Time Filmmaker, and you got Pocket Filmmaker with it, right? Now, unfortunately, and I've kind of learned this the hard way, which is why I'm talking about it here on stage, because I want to hopefully give you guys some real life experience of what I've learned, and why I feel like I don't regret launching a couple of these products last year, but if I could go back and do it again, I probably would. What I learned in 2024 is that by launching products and things that weren't parts of the core curriculum, it wasn't part of the core product that we had built, that we had spent the last 6 or 7 years building, I was actually alienating our core audience. Like, yes, we had influxes of cash when we launched these products, but you could just feel the longevity of the company itself. It was dwindling. Like, we weren't actually setting ourselves up for future success. We were having these small wins. And I got really good at just launching products, but I wasn't very good at keeping our core community engaged and selling the main product that Full-Time Filmmaker had become known to sell for, again, 6 or 7 years. Because of that, our engagement declined, specifically in the Facebook group. Like, literally to the point where I had people asking, is this group dead? And I'm like, crap. That was probably the most heartbreaking post I'd ever seen in our private Facebook community is this group dead? And, but it was a very valid question. In my mind, I'm like, how could they say that? I'm like, I put a few new products into Full-Time Filmmaker this last year. Again, we did the Pocket Filmmaker course. We actually launched an FPV drone course. We did a color grading course. I felt like we had added quite a few things to Full-Time Filmmaker, but the overall consensus, I think, from the community was just that they were being neglected. They weren't getting the care and attention that they deserved. So it was a valid point. Probably didn't expect that slide. I actually forgot that was next. So let's take a step back from FTF for a quick second, okay? Are you guys familiar with the Jaguar rebrand? Raise your hand. I hear some snickering. I think you guys are. So, what was that? Is this talked about in business class? Do you guys use this as examples at all? All right, I didn't know. So Jaguar just did this rebrand. It's a 100-year-old company, Jaguar, and they have a lot of racing heritage. And for the last several years, their sales, they've been in decline. Like, they haven't been able to actually create a product that gets people excited. And they had to kind of resort to a fairly drastic measure of a complete rebrand, or at least that's the approach that they took. So they launched this ad. You guys remember the ad? There wasn't even a car in the ad. It's kind of confusing. They launched this ad, and I see it, and I was like, is this like an H&M commercial? I'm not sure what I'm looking at here. No car in the ad, and then I think the next day or a few days later, they show the car. I'm like, okay, kind of a weird redesign. Like, this is a total, they're flipping into almost a new industry with electric and self-driving vehicles. It's a very interesting choice. You know what Jaguar should have done? Oh, and by the way, these are real comments that I found. 102 years of brand recognition destroyed. My Jag just lost 90% of its value. This will go down as one of the worst marketing decisions in history. Granted, maybe they're geniuses. I don't know. Maybe they know what they're doing. This is going to pay off in 10 years. I have no idea. But if I were to try and revive a brand like Jaguar, I would have leaned into their roots. I would have leaned into what Jaguar has been known for the past 100 years, which is racing, their deep racing heritage. And they've had some beautiful cars over the years, stunning vehicles. Everyone loves nostalgia, especially right now. People love the good old days, right? They miss the way it used to be. If I was Jaguar, what I would have done is leaned into some of that vintage style. Modernize it a little bit, but definitely lean more into that and revive it through that, right? And that's kind of what we did with Full-Time Filmmaker. We had this community that was wondering, okay, is this product dead? Is this still alive? Is this still a thing? And I decided to revive it and go back to what worked when it was at its peak. When Full-Time Filmmaker was at its peak, there was 3 main creators on the channel and in our course content. It was myself, Parker, and another guy named Jake. And so I looked at our data, and what we've actually noticed, there's a correlation between the amount of subscribers gained on YouTube and our revenue. When we're adding more subscribers to our channel, our revenue naturally is going up as well. That's just how it works. And we looked at the data, and in 2019, 2020, and 2021, we added 1 million or so subscribers to our YouTube channel. And that's exactly when the 3 of us were up on the channel making content. And over the years, we had all left, and then it was just me. So I'm like, okay, instead of reinventing the wheel, instead of reigniting the passion from our community by doing something completely different, completely unproven, let's channel the energy that we had back when Full-Time Filmmaker was at its peak. So we decided to focus on nostalgia, to bring back those original creators. So we just launched this YouTube video last week with the 3 main creators coming back. And we actually started a show. It's called the Full-Time Filmmaker Show, where we talk about camera gear, rumors. We have different segments that we all pitch in on. And it's created this amazing revival, I think, in the group. If you look at the data, so first off, the post that said, hey, is this group dead? I posted this the next day. Okay, it's pretty good engagement, I think, on a Facebook post. And this is the chart of active members in the Facebook group. So we were kind of hovering. This was our shelf of about 1,000 active members every single day. I posted that, skyrocketed, and we found this new shelf of about 5,000. So overnight, it was like, okay, well, there's the proof. People just missed the old days. We had gone too far away from that, so we brought it back. Another thing we did, too, is we brought Happy Creative, my coaching program, which was an additional program to Full-Time Filmmakers. So now it was included. And we decided to kind of simplify and refocus our vision of Full-Time Filmmaker. We've committed, we're not actually going to be launching new products this year. I think we did enough of that last year. And in doing that, we kind of alienated our audience, right? And so now we're focusing back on the basics, on what worked. So a few things that we've done. We hired a community manager on Facebook to keep the group alive so that no one ever has to ask, hey, is this group dead? We decided to actually make, did my computer die again? Jeez. There we go. We decided to actually make, for the sake of longevity, for the sake of like the future of full-time filmmaker, we're taking a step back from a solo individual being the face of the company. It's a big reason strategically why I brought the other two guys back, is because if there's three of us there, then whoever's hopping into the curriculum, who's watching us on YouTube, they can decide who they want to latch onto, who they want to identify with and watch the most, right? Like they have their characters that they root for. And by doing that, the future of the company doesn't ride on one single person. So we're setting ourselves up so that in 15 years, Full-Time Filmmaker is still the go-to platform for videographers to learn filmmaking. And it also allows me, strategically by the way, to in 5-10 years, if I decide that I want to exit, I want to do something else, it's going to be a lot easier for me to do that. So we're redesigning our website to feel a little bit more like a university where you can go on, you can pick the modules, the classes that you want, and it's a very customizable checkout experience. So we're really, really focused on long-term, where are we going to be at in 15, 20 years? So that's the story. That's the roller coaster. I wish, when you think about entrepreneurship and someone who's on stage and telling you how they got to where they are, in your mind you kind of think it's like this, right? It's just a straight line trajectory. In reality, it is a lot of up and down. Generally, you are trending upwards and you are going to end up where you kind of want to be, but it has been an absolute roller coaster. I wouldn't change anything about it. But in the last decade of figuring this out, making a lot of mistakes, learning, and honestly, still learning, because I think it's really easy to be sitting in these seats and look at who's up on stage and think, oh, they've got it all figured out. It's perfect. Trust me, I wish that were true. There is always a new challenge, right? And I'm up for it. But there's so much that I've learned over the years, and so I want to focus on just 5 key takeaways. I know we've talked about the creative industry, we've talked about full-time filmmaker, being a solo videographer. The stuff that I'm going to talk about, it transcends the creative industry. Like, this is stuff that genuinely you could apply to absolutely anything, any type of business that you want to create. So, the number one thing I've learned is clarity always beats complexity, right? It's really tempting to chase every new idea, right? People say, learn when to say no. Like, saying no is actually a good thing. I end up saying yes to a lot of things. And what I've learned is that successful businesses, what they actually do is they master the basics first. They create their core offer first, and they do that so exceptionally well before they ever go off and do anything else. Think about Apple for a second. When Apple first started, they were making desktop computers, home computers specifically. They were trying to make them more available, just more common, I guess, in the household. And they got really, really good at making these desktop computers. You had the Apple I, the Apple II, the iMac, and they just kept going. Once they felt like they had dialed in that specific market, that's when they broke out into other things. The iPod, 2001. The iPhone, 2007. Wearables like the Apple Watch, I think in 2014-ish, right? So they got really good at that core offer before they ever dove into the other categories. So stay laser focused on your core offer. Customers feel like they're not a priority, they're probably right. Next thing, don't take it personally. I actually have had a really, really hard time with this. So what I've learned is you got to care what people think about your business. Like, don't care what they think about you personally, care what they think about your business, because that is actually something you can control, especially in this digital age that we live in. And Full-Time Filmmaker is a brand that's very much in the public eye, at least in our industry. You know, we have 120 million views on our YouTube channel, 2 million people are subscribed. Like, we've been seen by a lot of people. You guys ever looked at the YouTube comments recently? They are mean. They are really, really mean. And it's really hard not to make a video, to spend all this time and feel like you're creating a piece of content that's gonna help somebody, and then have some troll in the comments just bring you down and tell you how dumb you are, right? It's really degrading. And I've learned that you kind of have to just push that aside. Like, don't worry about what personal attacks they're making on you. Worry about making the best possible product that you can, of creating a brand image for your business that's going to help it succeed, that people can trust, right? That is way more important than what people think about you. Push past that. And this is something that, you guys know MKBHD on YouTube, tech YouTuber. He said this in a video a few weeks ago. He said, pressure is a privilege. Being in the public eye is a privilege. It has its downsides. It can be very, very difficult mentally to have to read those comments and kind of go through that. But the best part about being in the public eye is that you get feedback like that. It's so incredibly quick. So if you make a mistake, you know right away. And by the way, at the end of the day, if someone's making a personal attack on you, they're probably in a bad spot themselves, so you can't take it too personally. The third thing that I've learned as an entrepreneur is that you kind of need to learn every role. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do every little thing within your business, but you should be familiar with, with the stuff that's happening inside. Like, you need to be familiar with the positions that people are filling at your company. A good example actually is Elon Musk. He doesn't have a degree in engineering, in science. I think he has a bachelor's in art. Is that what it was? Okay, I think I Googled it on the way up here. It's like a bachelor's in art or something like that. He's not an engineer, but you would think he is, right? Because what Elon Musk has done really well is he's committed himself to understanding how things work. Because if he understands how it works, even on a very basic level, he's not in the dark. Like, he actually can make more strategic and thoughtful decisions for his company, for the products that he's developing. Same thing goes for any company, honestly. And I've learned that if you kind of blindly know that you need to fill a role or you need to work on something in your company, say you need to, for example, a full-time filmmaker, you need to run more ads. You need to get a little bit better at marketing. It's really easy to go on Google, search marketer near me, someone who can work for me, and hire them and have them come in and do all your ads and whatever for you. And we've done that. And we've lost a lot of money doing that because I blindly trusted that they knew more than me. And once I fired them and started doing it myself, I learned a lot. And I realized, oh, they were kind of screwing us over right here. I probably should have paid more attention with how they were doing things. So I've been able to understand ads and marketing on a much deeper level. And you don't get to do that when you just hire someone to do everything for you, right? So understanding, at least on a basic level, allows you to make much more informed decisions for your business. Now, number 4, company culture matters, okay? And I'm not talking like, people joke, it's like a meme on Instagram, I swear, company culture. Like, oh, pizza parties, right? Like, that's culture, this is great. That's not company culture. Company culture is, it's creating an environment for your team where the collective success of the company is more important than their individual wins, right? Everyone coming together and building up this company and building really great products is much more important than them succeeding with, on a personal level, right? We want them to have personal wins too, but we want the company to win as a whole. And a company with good culture, it doesn't need a boss who micromanages or has to individually motivate every employee on a weekly basis. It's just there. You create an environment, again, where everyone feels like they can win, a fun environment where they're excited to come to work. So, how do you create a good culture? That's the real question. First, you got to establish your number one focus. What's your number one focus at your company? We actually created a motto for ours. It's members first, team always. So students, members, we want to create the best possible product, and we want our members to have success. And we want, the collective wins of our team to be important as well, right? Members first, team always. It sounds cheesy, but trust me, like the biggest companies in the world, they know what this is for themselves. And the second thing you want to figure out is, what are your core principles? I think it's good to pick 3 core principles, 3 of the most important things that you can pinpoint in your company. And whenever you have to make a big decision, you can lean back on those core principles. It's really easy, especially in entrepreneurship, to let emotion drive you, to let emotion be the thing that determines what decisions you make. But when emotion drives you, you can make some pretty poor decisions. And ideally, you need to lean back on these core principles. So for us, just to give you an example, we wrote this on the whiteboard the other day. That's why it's a photo. But our core principles are, we do fewer things exceptionally well. It means, again, we're not launching a bunch of new products and all these different things this year. We're going back to our roots, and we're focusing on our core product, on our audience, on our community. We want to make the best possible experience for them. It means we're going to do fewer things, but we're going to do the things that we do have the best in the world. Less, but more. So our top priority is helping people become exceptional filmmakers. Number 2, we obsess over the customer. We're obsessed in their success, right? This is something that Amazon has done extremely well. It's a big reason they have been so successful. Anyone bought something off of Amazon and then returned it like the next day? They don't give you a hard time at all. My wife loves Amazon. We joke, we kind of share the bills in the household. I do the mortgage and the electric bill and all these things, and she handles Target and the Amazon bill. She's really good at that. And she returns a lot of stuff on Amazon. And that's just something that Amazon has done extremely well. They obsess over the customer experience. Losing a little bit of money here and there does not matter to them because the lifetime value of the customer is so great. The third thing that we focus on, our core principle, is we show, we don't tell. We lead by example. And so in our world, in our industry specifically, our product rides on our ability to create really great cinematic content. And if we ever feel like we've just plateaued and we're not making cinematic content anymore, we're not doing a very good job at showing and not telling. If you're teaching people how to make good videos, ideally they figure out how to make good videos just by watching your stuff. They don't even have to listen to what you're saying. They just have to observe the content that you create. Now the last point that I want to make here before we move on to a Q&A, hustle, then balance, okay? Burnout it's for entrepreneurs, burnout is very, very real. You'll hit that very, very fast if you are go, go, go all the time. But my philosophy is that it takes a few months, just a few months of long hours, just grinding to get something off the ground. Once it's off the ground, you got to take a step back and find that balance. If you never find that balance and you're always just go, 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 you're going to burn out so incredibly fast. So take a few months, work really, really hard to get it off the ground, and then take a step back. Focus on your personal life, right? Like it's okay. You don't have to always be doubling your revenue year over year. Take a step back, make sure that you're in good health, that you're motivated, that you're excited to get to work, and don't kill yourself. So, sorry, that was really loud. Last thing here. This isn't the point. I just want to end on this. We actually had dinner with a few students just before this, and someone asked me, I can't remember the exact question, but it was like, I can't remember what it was. It was like, how do you know when you've like reached the finish line? Like when you know that you've gotten to the point that you've been working towards for the last however many years. And I kind of answered saying that there really is no finish line, especially in entrepreneurship. Like there's levels that you get to, and you're going to pull yourself up to a new level, and then you're going to have a new set of problems that you have to solve and you have to figure out. And with entrepreneurship, and honestly with life in general, it's not about being comfortable. It's about enjoying the discomfort. It's about finding joy in the journey, right? And at the end of the day, it's easy again to be in these seats and look at me on stage or any of the other speakers that you guys have listened to this semester and think that they have it all figured out. But the reality is nobody knows what they're doing. Okay? Some people, they just do it anyway. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Landon. With that, we have time for 3 questions. So if you just want to go ahead and call on 3 students as they raise their hands.
Okay. I went a little bit over. Hopefully that's okay. Yeah, go for it.
I like you said going back to like you need to learn every role. One thing I had a question for you though is how do you balance your knowledge in every position and then also delegate competence?
That's a really good question. I think that you have to understand that as you delegate, as you hand a job off to somebody else, you have to understand they're not going to do it exactly the way that you would do it, and that is okay, right? There's not just one way to do something. And frankly, when you learn a role like that, at least the basics of that, you need to learn just enough to teach what you know to that person. And then if that's their main job, they can run with that way further than you would have ever been able to. If you restrict them and you make them think that they're never going to learn anything more than what you taught them as the boss, that's all they're going to do. They're never going to excel, that they're going to stay in that zone, right? But if you kind of give the reins to them, if you give them ownership of whatever that might be, they're going to take it way further than you ever could. So it's not the easiest thing to do, especially if you're a perfectionist, to delegate, but it's worth it. I'll give you a good example, actually. My brother, who's here, he actually works for me at full-time. Are you filming me right now? That's good timing. He works for me at Full-Time Filmmaker, and he's my ghostwriter. And so we have a newsletter that we send out every week to about 200,000 creative entrepreneurs. And I was writing those emails initially, at least most of them, I think. And I kind of taught my brother how I wrote and the topics that I cared about and how I would type out an email, right? And I slowly handed that job over to him to the point where now he writes literally every single newsletter that goes out. And it looks like it's coming from me because he's copied my voice perfectly. And now he's able to come up with concepts and ideas and things to talk about in these newsletters that I wouldn't have even thought of, right? So you gotta just let it go. Yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna ask, like, what or who inspired you to like start filming? Like, I'm sure this is like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like initial spark about you?
So when I was in high school, I went to Alta High School. Any Alta High School people in here? Are you Alta Hawk?
Yeah.
Dude, Hawks fly together, man. I had a good feeling when I picked on you. No, when I went to Alta, for whatever reason, Alta had a very high bar for video content. And this was back in like 2012, 2013, right? There was a very high bar of people who were making incredible videos for like assemblies and pep rallies and all these different things that would play in front of the whole school. And they had crazy VFX like Star Wars VFX and Harry Potter and all these different things. Like the bar was so high, and I was like, that is so freaking cool. I want to learn how to do that. That's what inspired me more than anything, I think, is those early days. And especially back in like 2013, 2014, there wasn't really many people like making videos. And I like to be a little bit different. Like, I like to stand out. And I saw that as an opportunity to stand out. And so I was just very much inspired by the people at my high school who were doing that. And eventually, actually, funny story, my junior year of high school, I ran for student body, the audiovisual officer position, right? And I ran for that position and I won. And I won because no one ran against me, because no one else knew how to make videos. And so it was a very good move. But yeah, that definitely sparked it for me, and I kept going with it. Thanks. I need one more. Go for it. Sorry. This is actually a question they posed at the dinner just an hour ago now. His question, by the way, if you didn't hear it, it was how do you know when you can drop what you're doing to actually, go and chase your goal, right? That's a general question. There's never perfect timing, honestly. There's never a perfect time to actually drop what you're doing. And when I left full-time filmmaker as an employee, I went from a very great salary to zero overnight. And it was just, I truly believe when you put yourself in a position where you can't afford to fail, you will 100% succeed. You will figure it out, right? So I think when you force yourself to do that, you'll do just fine. It might be hard, it's gonna be a struggle, but you're gonna get more or less where you wanna be. I think also too, just to add to that, you don't have to drop everything. I think, in our coaching program, I've coached people who have 9-to-5 jobs. They're in-house videographers, or maybe they're just working a normal job, but they want to run a production company. They want to be a freelance videographer, and I tell them, there's 24 hours in a day. You spend 8 hours at your work. You spend 8 hours sleeping. You have an extra 8 hours right there to do whatever you want to do. So put in the work for the next few months of building whatever your passion is, and if that ends up taking over in terms of income, then jump into that. You can make that decision from there. So. Yeah, good question. Thank you.